I've been trying to make this video for several months now. Which video is that? Basically, why do I do this? Why did I move into my van? Why did I drive to BC? Why did I leave a sticks and bricks home that I was mostly stable in? Why don't I have a traditional job? Why do I live this life? Why do I do what I do? The short answer is, I moved into my van because my time had run out. The home I'd been living in for the past 5 years was no longer available to me. So I was moving out to somewhere else. Regardless, the guy I'd been living with, the guy I'd been renting his basement suite from, wanted it back. Wanted it for something else. So I had to leave. And I'd been dreaming of living in my van. Actually, the original dream was living in my Chevy Avalanche. That's what I wanted to do and what I intend to do still. But I'd been dreaming about living in a vehicle, living in my truck originally, but a van was a good second option. What I had considered and was open to. I figured if I don't have a place to live anymore, this is a good opportunity to follow my dream of living in a vehicle, living in my truck, or if not that, living in a van. So that's what I did. I didn't have the money to buy a vehicle, and I didn't own a vehicle already. So I asked a few of my friends for some advice, and they asked me to start up a GoFundMe so that they could get together and help me buy a van or a truck or a vehicle of some sort. So that's what I did. The reason I've been wanting to live in my vehicle for the last several years now is because the sticks and bricks life, the living in a stable home, the chasing stability has been out of alignment with my personal values for years, decades even. When my wife left in 2016, and my kids were 17 and 18 at the time, I no longer had a craving for stability because the stability I'd been chasing previously in my adult life was stifling, even killing my creativity, my desire for change, my desire to change the world, myself, my life, my desire to write, design, create. Being in a stable home stifled that. Being married to a woman who craved security and stability above everything killed my creativity. I tried for the 20 years we were together to write, to create, to design, and I just didn't have the bandwidth, the emotional stability, the creative space, or the motivation to do any of those things. And when she left, I felt relief and freedom. Of course, I was also distraught because I'd lost everything my family was from me. And those things were great. But I also felt the freedom to live the life I wanted to live. First thing I did when I bought a vehicle I could live in is I lived in it. I moved into it. In fact, I did actually buy a Chevy Avalanche first to help me move out of the place that I was living in. But the engine blew out of that truck half an hour after I bought it. So that didn't help. I got some family to move out with their vehicles, move out of my house. Once I was done, once I was gone, I lived in an Airbnb for a few days while I looked for a better vehicle, one that wouldn't blow up. And that's how I ended up with the van I have, the Dodge Caravan, the 2005 Dodge Caravan I'm currently driving. I took what money I had left over after buying that Avalanche and wasting $2,000 on a truck I couldn't drive. I took what money I had left over from the GoFundMe and I bought the most reliable thing I could find. It turns out it wasn't very reliable at all, but it was the best thing I could afford for the money I had left. And as soon as I had that, I didn't waste a single another day staying in an Airbnb, staying in a home, staying in a place. I have stayed at family's place a few nights since, but never with any intention of being permanent in any of those situations. My intention has been to live in my vehicle for the foreseeable future. Because that's freedom to me. That's autonomy. Two of my biggest values My most important core values are freedom and autonomy. So many years and decades of chasing stability, trying to find a regular job, trying to build some kind of a career, trying to have some kind of a stable family situation, even be married. While those things were wonderful in their own ways, they never gave me stability, but they absolutely robbed me of my creativity, my freedom, and my autonomy. So I think freedom is number one for me, autonomy is number two, creativity is number three on my list of most important values at this point in my life. So why did I move into my van and leave the province that I grew up in and called home for the vast majority of my life? Because stability, chasing stability, was killing my top three values, was robbing me of those three things. So I left there and started chasing those three values, started chasing freedom. I first lived in that van for the first 3-4 months in Edmonton, Alberta, in Canada. The first month I moved into my van, it was minus 30, minus 35, often at night. Sometimes the maximum for the day was minus 30, and there was one night in December that it got to even close to zero, close to freezing. But December was the coldest month on record for several decades. So it was cold. But the sacrifices that I was making, the stability that I didn't have, the fears that I had every night of whether or not my car was going to break or whether or not the cops were going to, arrest me or kick me out of where I was staying, or all those fears and insecurities that I had, they were insignificant next to the freedom I felt, next to the autonomy I felt. And my creativity started to flow within a couple of days. I started this YouTube channel only a few days after I moved into my van. I don't even think it was a week away yet. As soon as I moved into my van, the freedom I felt, the autonomy I felt, recovered, healed, and brought back my creativity and my motivation to be creative. So I started this channel. I didn't know what I was doing. I was still living mostly in panic mode, mostly in crisis, because I didn't know if the give or take $1,000 a month I was making was going to be enough to provide me a life in this lifestyle, to provide me a living. And I still make or give or take around $1,000 a month as a life coach. That's what I've been doing for 6 years. And I love it. That's the first place I solved the stability trap. As I said, fuck it to the corporate world. In this life feels like magic. Why anybody would ever want stability over this? Why would anybody ever want stability over that? Well, because I'm a life coach, I do understand that many people have different values than I have. So I get why some people would want that. But I value autonomy and freedom and creativity more than stability, more than security, more than even safety. I've been living in my van now for more than 4 months, and I've never been happier. In fact, when I got a few $100 extra, I've been saying since I moved into my van that my goal was to get to the Vancouver area, to the coast of BC, to the lower mainland in BC, because it's just warm there. And then I found out a month ago that Vancouver didn't even have a winter this year. They had no snow at all for the first time in 4 decades. So this is absolutely the place I need to be. And I'm here. I've been here for a couple of weeks. But even the journey to get here was a risk. My van has some serious mechanical issues. I mean, I only paid $1,500 for that thing, so of course it's going to have serious mechanical issues. And those things only got far worse driving through the mountains in 2 days. But I'm here, still driving that van. I've had another client offer to help me get a new van by reviving my GoFundMe. He's willing to match donations up to $1,500 so that we can raise another $3,000 and hopefully get me a more reliable van to live in. Because what I've done for him has transformed his life. And what I've done for others have transformed their lives too. Many of them want to see me a little more stable. But stability is not what I'm chasing here. Of course, I'm scared that my van's going to break down at any moment and I'll be stranded and homeless. But the risk, this freedom, this ability to go where I want, be where I want, sit in my van all day on rainy days or drive 10 minutes down the road or 7 days down the road at any point that I want to, and the only limiting factor is my pocketbook, is how much money I have in the bank. That's the only thing that limits my choices. That's freedom. That's autonomy. That's core to my being. That matters to who I am. That fills me up in a way nothing else ever has. I fucking love this life. And I don't know if it's come across in my videos yet, but this is one of the things that I've been talking with my own coaches about, is how to make this passion that I feel, this drive that I feel, this creativity that I feel, make it come out in my videos more. Because man, this shit's real. This is the life I want to live. I've been dreaming of living for years now. Quite honestly, nothing can replace it. I've often joked with my friends and my coaches and even some of my family. Even if I won the lottery tomorrow, I would simply buy a nicer vehicle to live in. I'd probably buy something nicer to travel the country. And sure, I'd buy a piece of property to put all my stuff in. Sure, I'd buy a place, and it would probably have a large garage so I can build out my van better, whatever it is I end up driving, whether it's the truck I've wanted or something else. Sure, I'd have that. I wouldn't stay in a home even if I won the lottery. I'd want to travel. My dream, my eventual goal is to travel this country of ours. Travel Canada, northwest and east. In fact, I want to do that several times, travel the country. I want to follow the Trans-Canada Highway from mile 0, which is in Victoria on Vancouver Island, all the way to the other end of it, which I don't know where it actually ends. My best guess is somewhere in Newfoundland. I just want to travel the country, see the whole thing. But the Trans-Canada Highway is only one piece of the journey. Once I'm done traveling the Trans-Canada Highway, or maybe I'll do that trip later, but another trip I want to do is I want to visit every province and territory and all the major cities in them. At least 3 in each province or territory, at least 3 cities. Because some provinces and territories, their largest cities aren't very big. And of course, some like BC and Ontario and Quebec and even Alberta do have some fairly sizable cities, but a lot of provinces don't. So I also want to travel every province and territory and visit all their major cities to see what urban culture is like in those places. But the choice, the option, the availability to go where I want and do what I want, that's what I'm here for. The freedom to make my own choices, the autonomy, the availability to decide my own life. That's what I'm here for. And the only limiting factor is how much money I can make. And I'm working on that too. I'm working on changing that also. My life coaching career is a part of that, but also so is this YouTube channel. I'm not limiting myself to one option. I'm writing a book. I'm making some courses. I'm building this channel with you guys. And no, this is not a lead magnet for life coaching clients. If you guys want my help, go find my other channels where I talk about that. Find the other places where I talk about that. Here, I'm talking about the freedom. I'm talking about choices, options that I have to live the life that I want. That's what I'm here for. So if you want more of that, stick around. You'll find it.